All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to Live with Leslie. I'm so excited to have Dr. Joyce here with us today. And I'm looking at my other screen. Okay, so we're trying to go live on all the places. All right, we are live on Instagram, we are live on YouTube, um, and LinkedIn and Facebook. So all the places. All
Sorry,
right.
I had us live twice.
Oh, that's all right. All right, guys, welcome. Happy Thursday. Here we are again, Thursday. I don't know how the time goes by so fast, but here we are. So, I have a great show for you today. This is really one of my, I know I say this a lot. I love like pretty much all the topics that we cover on these live streams, but I really have a special place in my heart specifically for this conversation because we're talking about something that so many practitioners really do grapple with, probably without even totally realizing it. And that is, the idea that giving more information automatically leads to better client outcomes, right? So, and I think as dietitians, Joyce, maybe you can touch on this, but I kind of feel like that we're oriented in our training towards that line of thinking, right?
Much, yeah.
So I really want to get your take on that. But the thing is, as I'm sure we're also well aware, is, nutrition, lifestyle changes, it's more than information, it's the doing, right? It's the actual implementation that really moves the needle. And here's the other thing, as I'm sure you're well aware, in this day and age, with AI being as it is, we cannot compete with information,
Impossible.
right?
Yeah.
If you couldn't do it 5 years ago, which really you couldn't even then, but now especially, we got to change this paradigm much more, moving from information to implementation. And that is what Dr. Joyce is really a specialist in. So I'm really excited to be joined by Dr. Joyce Faraj Adura. Hopefully I said that right. I know we've gone through this many times, so I think I got that down, from Nutrition Counseling Academy. And we're going to have a really good conversation about the shift, again, from education to really looking at transformation and how to recognize when we're over educating and what really is involved in helping clients to create lasting change, because that is what we are in the business for. So, really looking forward to this. If you're a dietitian, nutritionist, really any kind of health professional who's involved with behavior change of any kind with your patients or clients, you're definitely going to gain, I think, a great deal of value from our time together. So, let's go ahead and dive in. It's such a pleasure to have you, Joyce. I always enjoy your conversation so much. I love your work. For our visitors or our listeners who maybe are not familiar with your work, could you share a little bit about your backstory?
Sure, absolutely. So, welcome. Hi, everyone. And Leslie, thank you. I'm honored to be here. So, I'm a dietitian, like most of you out there. When I was trained in a very science heavy type of approach. We have the medical nutrition therapy. And if you're going down the dietetics track, you have the food management and all these other things. The dietetics curriculum is jam packed with things that we need to know. And it tends to be most of it science, science, science. And I love the science part of it, which is why I got a PhD. However, people don't have a knowledge deficit for the most part. So then when we're coming here with this approach of wanting to share all the things that we know so that they really believe that we are the true experts in nutrition, we end up having our sessions be full of, an education information dump that leaves your client feeling overloaded with too many thoughts, too much to do, and not enough of how to do it. Then there's where I need to say that we need to keep it simple and be able to focus on what's actually going to move the needle. So clients don't tend to have an information deficit, they have an implementation deficit. So that's where I
Mhm.
Nutrition Counseling Academy. How can we help our clients bridge the gap between knowing and doing in a way that feels easy, that feels sustainable, and that it really feels like they are empowered to actually change their ways?
I love that. So why do you think we focus so much on educating? Just, I certainly our profession is so heavily based on the educational paradigm, which don't get me wrong, that is important, clearly. But it does kind of seem like, and I don't want to pigeonhole exactly, but just according to, I'll just say my training,
Mhm.
let me just say my training was not super focused on helping people to actually achieve transformation. Really, where I got great training in that department was in my coach training. Right. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about like how did we get where we are?
Yeah. So I mean, if we take a a bird's eye view and think about how we are trained in school, in college, and any type of educational endeavor, it tends
Mhm.
to be a top-down approach, and it tends to be a very directive approach where information is being thrown at us, and it's up to us to absorb it, to take notes, to write it down, and we get tested. But I think there's a shift now, at least in the past, few courses I've taught at the university, where we're really engaging. We are engaging the students more because we know that the more that we engage them and we ask them to think about the information we're sharing, process it, and be able to synthesize a response, the better able they are to actually understand the content and be able to apply it. Same thing happens with our clients. If it's an information dump or overload and it's
Mhm.
very directive, they're not going to leave that session feeling like, yes, I know exactly what I need to do and I feel highly qualified. They're going to leave that session feeling like, okay, that was a lot. I believe that Joyce is an expert in nutrition. I still don't feel like I am making that change to be getting any closer to my health goal. So I think just the way that education has been grounded in this one-sided type of unidirectional approach, that is what we understand to be the thing that we need to do as well.
Exactly. So, it's very challenging, I think, as practitioners to make this shift
It's
because we
hard.
worry that we're not providing enough value. And we put such an emphasis, like, I think for most of us, depending on our training, of course, but a
Yeah.
lot of the value that we perceive is the information, right? The handouts, the beautiful PDFs, um, the education. How do we go about providing like true value as dietitians?
Yeah. So we have to think of this on not only how we were trained, but what we're battling as
Okay.
nutrition professionals. And this day and age, we're battling nutrition misinformation. We are battling
Mm,
potentially other practitioners who are, just they have different approaches or whatever, but we are battling this misinformation. And I think that many of us have this hidden desire to want to prove ourselves that
mhm,
we are the true experts in whatever area of nutrition and dietetics. And the only way to do that in their minds might be through more handouts, more education.
mhm,
But this is where I'm here to challenge that thought and ask, would you rather your client leave session thinking, wow, like Joyce was really an expert in nutrition, she really knew her stuff,
mm,
like I'm going to go to her for nutrition information, which is great? Or would you rather have your client leave session feeling like, wow, I feel so like heard, and I feel like that
mm,
mission really like got me. Joyce really understood where I was at, where I wanted to go, and I'm feeling very empowered. Or having a client tell you that when they finish your session, it's like they're filling their cup. How amazing is it to get the latter type of a response? And we don't get that through education or information. We get that through, the coaching aspect of how we can help them feel more empowered and get closer to that transformation.
mm. Okay. So I think that is a a significant shift in our approach because, in part, I think it means that we're perhaps talking less and listening more,
Yeah.
which that in of itself is huge, right? Because we are trained to be the expert,
Mhm.
right? So it's really a big shift. In my sense, I'd love to get some insight from our audience, like in terms of, just what are your thoughts? Do you like, does this kind of cause confusion for you, discomfort? Like, where are you in this process as educator versus someone that is partnering with the client or patient and helping them actually achieve transformation? I'd love to hear if anyone has any comments on that. But bottom line is, quite often, if we're not careful or, very self observant, we can be doing most of the talking, right? And
100%.
so tell me about that. And the one of the things that I hear quite frequently in the work that I do is, well, that sounds great, Leslie, but I don't know what to say. Like, tell me what to say, right? So, yeah, I know that's kind of a lot of things rolled up in one, but give me your thoughts and your insights on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in order for us to make this shift, we first have to realize where the gap might be. So, and
Mm,
for most of us, it is that we tend to be talking too much.
okay.
We're feeling this pressure to have to deliver information, to have to
Mhm,
deliver our worth through education. Now, this is where I'm going to challenge you and say, if you're finding that you're doing most of the talking, you should wait. And wait stands for why am I talking? I forgot who said
mm,
this, but I love it. And it's just a good way to take a moment and pause and actually just ask a question. So instead of being you the one taking over all the airspace, being able to shift it to them, because this is truly your client session. This is their me time when they're with you. And the
mm,
more they talk, the better you will be able to understand their life and what they're going through and what their goals and motivations are and what's going on. So it's much better to lead a session making it about them and not about you, because when you make it about them, the whole story changes. It's no longer they going to you for advice. They're going to you because you're going to be the person that's going to guide them
mhm,
to where they want to go. But in order for you to do that, you first need to be able to understand where they're coming from. So
mhm.
being able to shift that from you doing all the talking to, you know, taking a pause, realizing that you want to be hearing from them and asking an open-ended question is going to give you so much more and richer information than you doing most of the talking.
Do you have any, I guess, because this concept, again, in the moment might be kind of stressful for practitioners. Like,
Mhm.
oh my God, okay, I want to not talk as much, but what do I ask?
Yeah.
Do you have any comments on like
Any
what are
concrete.
some, like just easy things, like maybe 3 questions that you can have at the handy, right? If you catch yourself talking too much, but you're like, whoa, I don't really know where to go in this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the beginning of a session, I love to get to know their story. So this where I'm going to be emphasizing their autonomy, and then this is their space, and I'm there to guide. And we're there to partner up because they are the experts of their own life, and I'm going to be the expert in nutrition, and together it's going to be magical. So I really asked them, I said, okay, if you tell me your nutrition story and your journey, I'd love to hear more about yourself. What brought you in, and what are you hoping to get from working with me? Let them talk. Give them that space to think about it. Don't ask like another follow-up question, which is something I see a lot. Just whenever you ask an open-ended question, this requires a little bit more thinking and processing time. So give them space and time
Yeah.
to respond. And then a very simple, what else? Very simple, just, what
Oh,
else? And that's
ooh, that's a
uh,
good one.
more. So something like this is much more valuable for you as a practitioner because you might be getting a lot more information than you asking each question in your assessment and then going question after
I
question.
see.
Give them a really solid, high quality opening question like that, and then just prompting with what else is going to give you
Mhm.
lot more to work with. So that's one of the key ones.
And you're in agreement, or we have a guest here who says, I believe we need to assess by asking the patient why they're in your office and their goals.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
getting that insight right out of the gate is, I think, absolutely, you can't go wrong there. I do like that added, what else?
Absolutely. Or why is this important to you?
Yes.
And then they're going to get talking about why it matters to them. And when you start to realize why these changes matter to them, going beyond the surface level, you can ask, why else? What else comes to mind when
I
you think
love that.
reach these goals? You're going to get such a rich answer that's going to go beyond
Mm,
the surface level into more the emotional aspect of change. And that's when you're really tapping into what's needed to anchor someone in that journey.
okay. I love that. And yeah, just helping them to articulate the why,
Yeah.
because that is at the end of the day, the why behind the goal is really important for them to be able to articulate for themselves.
Exactly. It has to come out of them. And that's when it truly becomes that once they get it out from their brain and into the open, them saying it, it just
Mhm.
that's when many of them have an aha moment. They're like, I had no clue that this was underneath everything that I was
Right? And
saying.
that is the beauty of it all, is that and I became very, very aware of this again more through my coaching training, that it's really truly a gift to for another person, another human being to be listening, like
Yeah,
actively listening in that way. And that they probably like they're certainly not getting it when they're, getting their medical care for the most part. I don't want to pigeonhole everyone, but for the most part, let's be honest, people don't have time, right? We're,
100%.
they're in that model, they're seeing patients, every 10 minutes, and it's just hustle bustle. Um, Hey, Jenny, good to see you. So Jenny has a question. I don't want you to lose your train of thought, though, Dr. Joyce, in terms of if you had anything else you wanted to share on that topic. But how do you have any thoughts on how this is a really good one, and one that I remember kind of feeling myself, not being a therapist, but having really great coaching training.
Mhm.
Yeah, sometimes I did kind of feel like, ooh, am I dipping my toe into the therapy department? Because I don't want to do that. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're keeping this within our scope, within our training, and whatever training you might have is going to dictate what you're able to do or not do. But
Okay.
as far as the work that we can do as dietitians, nutrition professionals with some good coaching training and coaching
Mhm.
skills, is that we're going to be able to provide this space and the opportunity for self-awareness for clients. We're not going to be there to find a root cause analysis of why they're feeling a particular way, but it's
Mhm.
so helping them become aware of what's going on and how that might be impacting their eating, and being able to provide that space, meaning giving them the opportunity to think about it, connect the dots, and then reflect what you're hearing. Basically, validate their experiences, being able
Mhm.
to reflect what you're hearing them say, how they might be feeling or thinking,
Mhm.
the emotions, and that's going to help with that connection piece. You're not there to fix anyone. Our clients are not broken. We're not there to fix them, but
Mhm.
we're
Mhm.
there to help them have some of those aha moments and relate it back to how that can influence their eating and behaviors around food decisions.
Okay. Yeah, reflection is a really good tool. And
100%.
I remember, when I was doing nutrition counseling and coaching, that is one that I would pull out of my toolbox quite frequently. Like, especially when I was like, oh, I know I want to not be talking as much, but I don't know exactly what to say. So, a good thing that I found was to, maybe try to pause and summarize, what you're hearing so far, and do a little check in. And then, like that can take you on a really good, like, I don't know, empathic
Yeah.
path forward, right? And the person is like, wow, this person's really hearing me. which is again is really a gift.
It really is. And I'm also a member of the Motivational Interviewing Network of Trainers. I'm an I trainer.
Okay.
We say, like, when in doubt, reflect. There could be reflecting
That's
for a
probably where I heard that, like if you're stuck, reflect back.
Yeah, and this is the beauty of it, and people don't realize that reflections can be used instead of questions, because people will
Oh.
respond to your reflections and they're going to give you more information or continue the discussion or the conversation when they respond to our reflection. So I think dietitians tend to have an aha moment when they're like, oh, wow, I reflected and I wasn't expecting that person to respond to that reflection beyond a yes or no, but it does tend to continue the conversation, or you can even guide it towards change based on what you're reflecting.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, reflection's a great tool. Do you have any comments on this particular comment that I have on the screen regarding the IFM timeline?
I'm not sure what that is. If you don't mind
Okay.
explaining it for me.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm actually. Maybe someone could explain what that is in the chat. That would be super helpful. I know that IFM is Integrative Functional Medicine. They or Institute for Functional Medicine is what it stands for. I know that they. I mean, I've worked with lots of practitioners who have that certification, and you get like really good training, and in terms of how to approach very complex cases and just how to manage that initial assessment. So I assume that that is what we're referring to here, and that my takeaway is that it's a very good guideline in terms of time management and really getting underneath the important aspects of their health, pointing to root cause identification. Right? Okay, let's see. Jenny, it's basically a way of gathering history on every aspect of a patient, including things. Okay, yeah. Oh, interesting. Okay, yep. So timeline, not meaning how to manage your time in the session so much, although I'm sure you learn tips on that as well, but more life timeline, like significant things that have happened in that person's lifetime, starting at birth, actually, right? Did
I can
you
probably see how
C-section or vaginal birth, breastfed, not antibiotics, ear infection, like all that. Okay, yeah.
And to be honest, my approach to something like this would be to send them a questionnaire ahead of time.
Okay.
Because in that initial session, my role is going to be to connect with the client, to really help them feel heard and seen. And, I would sprinkle in assessment questions in a very conversational manner. So it doesn't feel like I'm just shooting question after question after question, because that can feel like an interrogation. The paradigm just go out the window.
It can be really off-putting, right? Like, what is this? Yeah, an interrogation. Okay.
Yeah. And what I would do is, if they did have anything they wrote on that, whatever assessment you are having them fill out ahead of time, I can say, you mentioned this in your assessment. Do you mind sharing a little bit more about that? And tell you what.
Good. Yeah, good. That's a really handy question. So I'm trying to encapsulate in my mind, like, what are some really good go-to questions if you're like, oh, I don't know what to say, but I know I'm talking too much,
Yeah.
So those are all really good. Any thoughts on, this is a great question. How do your clients retain information without the addition of all of the educational handouts? So what are your, I have some thoughts on that, but I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. So I try to keep it simple. When I'm with my clients, we are having a nice conversation where I tell them we're going to go deeper than just talking about what they eat and drink, so that we can actually get at different realms or different areas like stress and sleep and movement, and energy and all these things, right? That would be influenced by the work that I do within my scope of nutrition and dietetics. And when it comes to figuring out what the focus will be, we create a bit of a roadmap, and then we decide together what's going to be that first step. And for that
I'm
first
still here.
okay, I can
Sorry.
still for that first step, that's when I'm going to figure out what is relevant, what is needed. I'm going to keep it simple. So when it comes to providing education, a lot of what we do in motivational interviewing tends to be the ask, offer, ask sandwich. Think of it as an
Mhm.
Oreo. So each cookie is going to be the ask. So first, I would maybe assess their knowledge. How much do you know about food and diabetes, or how much do you know about this or that? And then is it okay if I share a little bit of information? You share, keep it simple, lay terms, just whatever is relevant for them to be able to make an informed decision about the next step, and then ask
Mhm.
them, what do you think about what I just shared? And it's going to be human nature to relate that information to their own life, to their
Mhm.
own experience, and then they're going to give you a response. That's
Okay.
how to understand the retention of the information and also the understanding of it. And they don't need to know it all. I want to make sure that they're understanding that particular piece that I shared and how it relates to their life so that we can come up with the next step. And
Uh,
I don't want clients leaving my session feeling like, oh my goodness, that was a nutrition 101 class. It's more, oh, I learned that fiber does this and I can find fiber from here and there. Keep it simple, but whatever
okay.
is relevant to their health goals with that first thing.
I love that. Yeah.
That would hear your take as well,
Yeah,
Leslie.
well, I think we're in agreement. Keep it simple. I mean, the process that I teach in my program or my programs is, we want to have like akin to what I would like the 5R protocol, for example, for gut health, right? So I help my clients to map that out, like what is their unique approach,
Yeah.
and so that you're not just like starting from scratch every single client, right? You've got let's just call it a loose framework, one
Mhm.
that you can personalize, but it is really nice in that it's got a lot of benefits. The patient or client kind of always knows where they are in your process,
Mhm.
right? Especially if it's sequential, you always know where they're at. Um, and it provides a sense of consistency across all of your patients, right? So
Yeah.
I find that really helpful. So in that process, of course, there's going to be some educational components and things that you're working on. But I think we're in agreement. It's not about how beautiful your handouts are or how many handouts and
Mhm.
PDFs the person gets. It's about it is just about the transformation. I mean, and I think a piece of the transformation that maybe we haven't really touched on is accountability,
Yeah.
right? So, in my experience, and I'd love to know what others think about this, but they want to be held accountable because, again, it's not a deficit of information,
Mhm.
especially in the day of AI, right? Like people can go and they get their direct to consumer labs now, right? Like they don't even really need a practitioner to order their labs. They can go get that. They can get a whole bunch of them for
Mhm.
pretty inexpensive. They upload them into AI, which I know not good. You're going to get a different response every time you put it through, pretty much, right? Oops. All right. I'm going to switch cameras. I don't know why I'm having trouble. Give me 1 second. I'll just go to my FaceTime camera. Oops. But anyway, keeping it simple is really the key, obviously. We want to keep things really simple.
Okay, so I think this is switching cameras. So we'll keep it really simple. And if you already have a framework that you walk them through, I think it would be worth having a lot of the educational aspect that you might want everybody to know to maybe have that recorded somewhere and share it with them.
Mhm. I'm
Um,
back. I don't know why my good camera, I tell you, it's got a mind of its own. So I'm just on the old computer FaceTime camera, but here we are.
Got it. Well, I was
Whatever
just
works,
saying that
right?
if someone has like a framework that you walk them through,
Yeah.
having that more like the heavy education piece pre-recorded in
Uh-huh.
bite-sized pieces for micro learning, like 2 to
Yes.
4 minutes or 4 to 6 minutes, would be
Uh-huh.
ideal. So that even there, we don't want to overwhelm them, but
True.
that way we can spend the time together on the connecting and the how to, and not so much on the what.
I love that. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So yeah, it's it still plays a role, but I think that the big takeaway is just not as it's not the whole thing. And
Yeah.
then I think, in our training, I can certainly speak for myself. That was really the crux of what I learned is, patient education, nutrition education is, you know, with the thought of it being, well, if you know what to do, you're going to go do it, right? Which that is not the case.
If that was,
Um,
we would all be out of a job.
isn't that the truth? Yeah,
Yeah.
and honestly, the other thing, yeah, we'd all be out of a job because we would be so healthy, right? Like we wouldn't have
As simple
all the
as
health challenges that we're seeing.
absolutely. I mean, people know about eating fruits and vegetables. It's not like it's a mystery, and yet
No,
10 adults are not meeting their fruit and vegetable intake recommendations. So it's that's where I say let's try to keep it simple and meet them where they're at. But if you
well,
will,
let's use that example. Can we play with that?
of course.
I mean, I'm just curious. I don't know where this is going to go at all, but like that's so true. Like everybody knows eat more vegetables, right? Especially, okay, so fruit and vegetables. I'll take any of the above.
Right.
So we all know that. So why don't we do it? Myself included. Like
Yeah.
what is it?
So when it comes to
I'm
behavior,
putting you on the spot.
there's so much and it's unique to everyone. But when we
Uh-huh.
think about any type of goal, if it's too big, if it's too vague,
Okay.
it has too many parts, it's gonna cause paralysis.
Okay.
So I think part of it is having like big goals, being very ambitious,
Great
is
point.
people stuck. And the other part is that they might not necessarily be aware of where they're at. So being
Mhm.
able to help them with that self-reflection, self-awareness, not
Mhm.
judgment, just identifying where they're at and where they want to be and help them close that gap is going to be huge.
I see. Okay. So, all right. So my takeaway from that is pretty evident. It's like it's just too big of a goal. Eat more fruits and vegetables, Leslie. You'll be fine. Okay. Like where do I start with that? Right?
Yeah,
Like it's too big. It's too big.
we cannot have our clients leave session with a goal like that of eat more fruits and vegetables. Because, I mean, think about it, just move more or whatever advice someone
Eat
has.
less and get more exercise. How's that?
Yeah.
Like how many times have people heard that? Or one that I heard um years ago was, well, just meditate. An MD told me that. Like, well, like it's easy, just meditate. Like, oh my gosh. Okay, so I thought about it, but I never this is me and I got it's my my issue, but I just was like that's just not going to happen
Yeah.
because it's
So
just too big.
absolutely. And we have to also check ourselves because are we coming in with our own agenda, with our
Mhm.
own goals for the patient versus their goals? We have to be,
Mm.
otherwise
Oh, that's another
we
great
can
point.
tell them what to do until we're blue in the face and they're still not gonna do any of it. So it's
Oh,
not.
that brings up a whole nother thing, right? Like I was going to say, it opens another can of worms, so to speak. Like what is important to the person and allowing them to really be the expert in their own life.
Yeah, that autonomy. I mean, if you ask any client what their biggest fear might have been coming to see you, it would
Mhm.
likely they would likely respond with something along the lines of, "I'm scared you would have told me I couldn't eat X, Y, or Z."
Yeah.
So they think of us as the food police.
They
They're
do.
at the moment their freedom is in any way threatened,
Mhm.
they're not going to open up. They're not going to want to continue working with you. So then this is where I say we have to highlight their autonomy, and that might go against the training we've received, where it's been very directive, telling people what
Mhm.
to do. But highlighting someone's autonomy is basically coming to the realization that we cannot change anyone. I mean, we have a hard
Yeah.
enough time changing ourselves. We cannot change anyone or make anyone change, but we can
Mhm.
highlight the fact that this is their journey, this
Yeah.
is their life. They get to decide what, if anything, they want to change, or when, or how often. And then really putting that responsibility on them, not on us, is going to be huge to decrease your own burnout as a practitioner, but also increase their responsibility for taking
Yes.
accountability for their actions.
Okay, I have an add-on to that. And I, again, if any of our guests, any of our listeners want to comment, I'd be really curious. But one thing that, and you probably hear this too, Joyce, in the work that you do, but one thing that I have heard over and over again over the years is like kind of like um, expressing like a fear, like this deep-seated fear of not knowing the answer,
Mm,
right? Being asked something by a patient or a client, or like if you're giving a talk, for example, oh God, it's like the kiss of death in our minds if
mhm.
we don't know the answer. And
Yeah.
one thing about this approach that is so beneficial is it takes that burden off of your shoulders and puts it on, I mean, and it's not even really a burden, right? But like when it's on our shoulders, it feels very heavy and hard and scary. But this different way of approaching things where you don't have to know all the answers because
Mhm.
you can ask the person, well, why is that important? Tell me a little bit about that. Where, what's bubbling up for you or what's getting in your way? Oh my God, it will set you free. Like you will no longer be fearful of like being a deer in the headlights and not having the answer because you don't need to. What are your thoughts on that?
We need to learn to trust our clients, that they are the experts of their own life, that they have knowledge and resources that we together are going to tap into.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever we don't know something, it's perfectly fine. You're not supposed to know all the answers. You're not expected to be there to provide all these solutions. We want them
Mm-hmm.
to be an engaged participant of this conversation. And we want to
Mm-hmm.
hear, like, what have you been thinking about? What comes to mind when you think about eating more fiber? What
Mm-hmm.
have you tried so far? What has worked for you? So then asking clients about their own unique experience, and then you're seeing a gap. Great. That's a perfect opportunity to say, is it okay if I share something that I think you might find useful?
Okay.
Share. And then what do you think about that? So then having these conversations are great. And to be honest with you, I might be shifting gears a little bit here.
Uh-huh.
I don't necessarily let the client take over the session or
Mm.
questions mid session, because once that happens, guess what? The dynamic of what I'm trying to lead them towards in a collaborative manner is going to go out the window.
Oh,
We keep the conversation going, and then towards the end, what questions do you have, if any? So
okay.
then that is when I'm going to give them that space to ask questions. But if you start allowing them to ask questions at any moment in time, that's just going to throw off the conversation to a different
Oh,
direction.
interesting. Okay, that's a great tip. So, and I love that. That is actually something that I talk about quite a bit with my work with my clients who are practitioners as well. Is you want to show up as the leader,
Mhm.
not as the person that is, like it's a little different. I'm not saying like you're not telling, you're not showing up as the world's expert, right? Because you're really aligning as a collaborator, but you don't want to, um, yeah, I mean, that's the best way I can put it is you do want to still be the leader in that collaborative conversation, right? And
Yeah.
like giving them a framework, like what you just said, Joyce, about, okay, we're going to save questions for the end.
Yeah.
right? Like in my mind, that's giving a person like the lay of the land, kind of pointing out the agenda in advance so
Hmm.
they know. Otherwise, how are they going to know, right?
Yeah. And this is a little bonus tip. If the conversation gets like all over the place and you're finding that you're not really, guiding them towards
Yeah.
whatever goal you're getting to in that conversation, that would be a good way to bring it back and redirect. Because you said that this was
Mhm.
important to you, I want to make sure we leave time at the end for
Yeah.
questions. Then you kind of redirect them into the
Ah.
conversation
And
again.
so then it redirects without it feeling like punitive or negative because you're bringing it back on something they want.
You
And
see
they
that?
articulated that they want that.
Yeah. So when you say because you mentioned this or because you said this was
Mm.
important to you, that already shifts the dynamics into, okay, it's because they really matter, and we want to make sure we get to
Yeah,
their.
and it tells the person that you're a great listener, right? And that you remembered and you care enough to redirect so that they get their needs met. I love that. That's a great strategy. So as we, kind of start to wrap up, what is the shift needed to focus on the client versus our expertise? Any more thoughts on that? I know that's kind of a big question, but yeah,
Yeah.
anything else we want to talk through there?
So I'd say if you're able to stop thinking about what you're going to say next or what is the client going to think about what I'm saying,
Okay.
like you're focusing on you that whole
Yeah.
time. And that's not going to allow you to really listen. And listening is a skill. It's not something you're born with. We don't want you to just hear what the client is saying. We want you to listen with your ears, with your eyes, with your, soul, with your whole body. So that means that we have to practice the skill of being present in
Mhm.
session.
Yeah.
And when that happens, you're going to be so focused on the other person, then guess what? You're not going to be focused on you or that fear of what am I going to say next or that fear of what if I don't know this answer. You're going to be focusing on them and paying
Yeah.
attention to what they're saying. And just that minor shift can make a big impact, and really helping the conversation move in a way that feels person centered.
Oh, such a great tip. I really like that. All right. Any final words of wisdom? And also, please share, if you would, Joyce, how can our audience learn more about your work and some of the things that you're offering to help everyone just become better at this? Because it is a skill, right? It's a skill, but guys, you can learn it.
Mhm.
Really, really can.
It's not something you're born with. It is a skill that you can develop, just like learning a musical instrument, learning another language.
Mhm.
This is something that is, usually takes more than just reading a book about it. And that's where I'm going to come in and say that is the whole purpose behind the Nutrition Counseling Academy, to be able to give you not only the knowledge, but the opportunity to practice, to develop a skill, to get the mentoring and supervision you need to really excel in this skill development when it comes to coaching, counseling, MI. So everything that we do is focused with being as practical as possible so that you can start to implement small changes in your practice to really focus more on the connection that's going to help with client retention, client outcomes. And we have an array of different programs, from a monthly membership where you join and you get access to trainings with, if you're a dietitian, they have continuing education units on all things behavior change psychology, motivational interviewing, coaching skills. It's really focused on how you can get better at that skill in a session. We have monthly coaching calls. We have guest speakers. Then we have other like specialized programs like the menopause nutrition counseling, and the one we're launching now is the perimenopause, the most advanced comprehensive nutrition counseling program
Okay.
towards those who are supporting individuals through perimenopause. And we have one on GLP-1 as well.
Hmm.
So we have different options
Interesting.
that you can take a peek. You can find me on nutritioncounselingacademy.com or on
Okay.
social media. And Instagram, it's at nutrition.counseling.academy. And yeah, I'd love to hear from you if you have any questions.
Okay. So, guys, hopefully I spelled this right. Let's see. Hang on. Did I do this correctly? Nutrition
Yeah, you
counseling. Okay,
did.
awesome. Okay, so that is the website. Again, nutritioncounselingacademy.com. Check out Joyce's work and her programs. I mean, this is the woman you want to work with when it comes to really just increasing your skill set in this regard. So definitely check her out. I love really everything that I've seen. So definitely check her out again, nutritioncounselingacademy.com. And okay, any final words of wisdom before we wrap up today?
Yes. So this is a motto that I think has resonated with many, and that is that nutrition is a science, but eating is a behavior. So then in order to really influence someone's eating behaviors, we need to really understand and know and be able to apply the behavior change psychology that's going to help someone make those changes. And
Okay.
that's where we come in.
I love it. So good. So good. All right, guys. So we are going to wrap up today. I could talk all day about this stuff. It's so fun. And Joyce, you're so knowledgeable. I want to thank you for your willingness to share and sprinkle your wisdom with our audience today. And I also want to thank everyone for the lively conversation and your great questions and comments. That made it extra fun today. So, really appreciate that. Um, can people, oh, so you gave your Instagram. I was going to say, if people have a question, would you prefer that they like DM you via Instagram, or do you have any preference there?
Instagram is easy, and they can keep
Okay.
on seeing all the stories or anything that I share. I
Okay.
tend to share a lot of value-based posts as
Okay.
well.
And is your refresh my, is it Nutrition Counseling Academy on Instagram as well?
It's nutrition.counseling.academy.
Okay.
Let's see if I can share it.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. So that's probably a good way to go to is
Okay.
oh, let me get rid of this. Are you able to post on your side? I don't know if you can. But
Connect.
basically it's the same. It's just got the, nutrition.counseling.academy, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So you'll find it. Okay, guys, we're going to wrap up for today. Thank you so very much. And again, Joyce, big thank you to you for sharing your insight. This is such an important topic. I'm just going to say again, I know I mentioned AI several times, but just in this day and age, with it everything really shifting. There is no shortage of information. Oh my goodness, no shortage. So you are never ever competing with information or really education. This is really where it's at for true lasting transformation. So if you've ever been, you know, tempted to really increase your skill set in this area, I would just say now is truly a perfect time. So check Joyce out. Again, nutritioncounselingacademy.com. And I'll look forward to seeing you all next week. All right. So same time, same place. And Joyce, thanks again.
Thank you, Leslie. Bye, everyone.
Bye. All right. Excellent. I wanted to let me look on my bookshelf.